In the last session, we have seen the configuration of application. So in this session, we'll see the example on the Postman, uh, the REST API example, and the GraphQL example. So for you, I created one Postman collection. So in that, we have a collection for REST API and GraphQL. So REST API, uh, we have a saving list. So this is something we have a endpoint for the REST API book, and here this will accept the request body, something on the title, description, book, and it get persisted in the database. So application has have started 8082 port. So we have a port localhost 8082, and um, endpoint of the this service is book. I'm sending the request. It will save the data into database. So for this record, the ID is generated 6. So you can see here, and you want to validate this one at the database site. So just you request here. You can see uh, the one record is created into the database for this record. So another endpoint, we have a get ID, get by book ID. So we have a URL and book underscore ID. Will, if you request for, get the response. So it will return the one book record. We want to change here. Just we created recently 6. So you request for that, you will get the response of the book detail book. The another, we have a get all book. It will return all the books that we have created into database. So it, you can see that this will be written all the book, and the response what you can see here, book 4, book 5, book 6 we have. The next one, this again we have a for the save operation for the different book, that is, and we have a request body. So if you send request, it will be have another data in the database, c1 id generated. So this is all we have related to REST API. So now come to the GraphQL. The GraphQL, we have a get all. In GraphQL, in the Postman collection, you will get the option something, the GraphQL. The GraphQL here, the query you will have to write. So first, this is the syntax of the GraphQL, the query, and for the we all book. So all book we have in the resolver. You can see all book inside. We we can we have already defined this one in the schema. You can see in the schema, get all book, and it will return the type of book object. So type of book object, we have attributes, ID, title, description, price, author, language, status. So we have kept something like that in the mapping format. So it will return the author. We have a type of attribute of the author type. Language have the language type. In the language type, we have in the language we have ID name. So when you request it, it will return the data, something like data or all book. Then further we have a ID maths title as a math. So here, what client can decide what are the attribute they want. Let's suppose client now want to fetch somewhere only the ID or title. So just they will remove and request. So the client will get only ID or math, ID or title. So in the you can see the difference here. Client deciding what are the attribute they want to fetch from the server. But in the REST API, what is happening? Client here not deciding what are the attribute they want to take in the response. So whatever developer has defined. that all the attribute will get the client. So there is some time happening of overfetching data is happening here. And the get GraphQL, you can see here client has requested for the two attributes and they get the two attributes. So another we have for the mutation. So mutation basically type on that GraphQL type. And GraphQL we have a type, the mutation, something like the query for fetching data, mutation for persisting, updating, deleting data. For that we use the mutation. So say book. So we have a we have a say book details. So this will accept the input book details and return the book type. Return type is book type and book details is the input. So you can see here, so something we have a book type and it will return the book. So client want to show the book details. So client here have the input type book. So GraphQL variable here we defining here something the book details, title, description. This is the request body, something we passing in the base. This is something like request body we have in the REST API. This is something we have raw data that we have the GraphQL we passing something like that. GraphQL variable book type and title. So now I am requesting for persisting data into database using the GraphQL. So data gets saved and get the response. So in the response, we client has accepted for or requested for the two attribute only, ID and status. So they will get the two attributes. You can see for this, so it generated here ID. So now come to the here it generated and title a book GraphQL Hindi. So the same we gave here GraphQL Hindi. So next we have a mutation for show book without variable. So in the mutation, two way we can define the input variable. One way something that on the GraphQL variable you defined as a input variable and pass and call it. And the other way you write mutation, something like that mutation, say book details. In that we have uh, a book details. So all as a JSON you can supply as a input and output whatever you want, whatever client want to take. That's will get here. I requested for the response ID, title, status, language. So see here something you will get ID, title, status, and language. So same details gets away here. 9 ID is generated for this. And another for the mutation, update mutation, how you can update data through GraphQL. So something we have a saved detail. So here what you have to do, just supply the ID. The same mutation, if you pass the ID, like ID here I am passing the for the third record data get updated in the database. So API developer description we have GraphQL onto the here you see the ID 3 API developer and GraphQL that's get created and another have get book by ID. So something here request get book and pass the ID for particular uh, ID will get the record. So again here client can decide what are the attribute they want to fetch as a response. So if client want to remove, I can remove. Want to add more, I can more add. we language. So we language it will expect something have to language of type object. So there is ID and we have a name attribute. So yeah, so you can see for this ID, you get the name, book, language. If I'm changing ID, as recently we have updated the record. That was the third record. Requesting for the third. So you can see the record is come. So in all API, you can notice in GraphQL we have a one endpoint. We have noticed here for the all API we have a single endpoint in GraphQL. Yeah, this is it about the GraphQL. Thank you.